She lost everything in a single day, the kind of day that feels so heavy it crushes the air out of your chest, the kind of day where time slows down just enough to make every moment sting a little harder. And in that strange blur of hours she watched the life she had carefully pieced together crumble into something unrecognizable. And it all began with the morning sun that rose just like any other, casting a soft golden glow into her small but cozy apartment, a place she always thought of as her sanctuary, a place where her books lined the shelves in uneven stacks, where the plants on her windowsill leaned toward the light, where her coffee mug waited faithfully on the counter. And she truly believed she was safe there, until the email arrived at 9:07 a.m., a cold, clinical message from the company she had given nearly 7 years of her life to, explaining that the business had shut down effective immediately, citing financial collapse and unforeseen challenges, words that sounded professional on paper but felt like a blade in her chest because behind those words was the truth. She was unemployed, discarded, another casualty of circumstances she had no control over, and she sat frozen, staring at the screen, her coffee untouched, her chest tight with panic as she tried to imagine what she would do, how she would pay her rent, how she would explain this sudden turn of events to her mother who always worried too much. And she hadn't even caught her breath when her boyfriend came in, his eyes darting nervously, his shoulders tense, and before she could share her own devastating news he confessed that he had been seeing someone else, someone new, someone he claimed made him feel alive in ways he hadn't felt in years, and he said it as though it was a kindness, as though ripping the ground from under her feet could ever be kind. And then he left, just like that, with no hesitation, closing the door behind him, and the sound of it echoed in her ears like a final judgment, leaving her standing there in disbelief, abandoned in the same space that only hours before had felt like home. And though she wanted to scream or throw something or beg him to stay, she couldn't move, she couldn't even cry yet, she just stood there, hollow, until the phone rang, and she almost didn't answer it because she couldn't take any more bad news. But when she saw the hospital's number she picked it up with trembling hands, and the voice on the other end was calm but heavy, telling her that her mother had collapsed at work and was now in critical condition, asking her to come immediately. And that was the moment the day broke her, because it wasn't just about a job or a man or an apartment anymore, it was about her mother, the woman who raised her, who sacrificed for her, who never let her down, and now she was lying in a hospital bed fighting for her life. And so in less than 24 hours everything she leaned on, her career, her relationship, her sense of stability, even her one constant source of love, was taken from her. And she felt like the universe had singled her out, like life had decided she was the one to be tested in the harshest way. And for days she wandered in a fog, moving through her routines without energy or direction, staring at ceilings late into the night with her mind screaming questions that had no answers, wondering if maybe this was it, if maybe she had reached the end of her ability to endure, if maybe the best thing to do was to give up and let the weight of it all bury her. But even in that darkness she kept going back to the hospital, sitting by her mother's bed, watching the steady rise and fall of her chest, listening to the beeping machines. And it was in one of those moments, when she held her mother's fragile hand in her own, that her mother stirred, opened her eyes, and whispered in a raspy voice, "You're stronger than you think. Don't let this break you. If I'm still fighting to live, you have to fight too." And those words didn't just comfort her, they lit a spark in her, a small, stubborn flame that refused to die, because if her mother, weak and exhausted, could still fight, then how could she not? And that became her reason, her anchor, the thing she could cling to when the storm threatened to drag her under. So she started with small steps, because big steps felt impossible. So she took long walks in the mornings to clear her mind. She wrote in a journal every night, pouring out the pain and fear onto paper instead of letting it rot inside her. She picked up odd jobs, babysitting, freelancing, even delivering groceries, just to keep herself afloat. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, she began to stitch herself back together, not the way she was before, but in a new way, a stronger way, a way that wasn't dependent on a job title or a relationship or even certainty, but on her own will to keep going. And as the weeks turned into months she found that she could breathe again, that she could smile again, that she could even laugh sometimes without feeling guilty. And when her mother finally recovered enough to come home, she stood taller, not because life had suddenly become easy or perfect, but because she had discovered something unshakable inside herself, a truth she never would have believed before, that even when life strips away everything you thought defined you, it can't take away your choice, the choice to rise again, to rebuild, to keep moving forward. And in that choice she found her reason to keep going. And though the scars of that day would always remain, they no longer defined her as broken, they defined her as someone who had survived, and that, in its own quiet way, was everything.